I was searching for a guru, and at the time I was in India, and basically, like, I felt like I was trying to find someone who could relay back to me my experience, and I felt like I couldn't find anyone who could just like help me articulate what I was experiencing. And what I'd had is this kind of pre this kind of unguided awakening, this kind of like prerequisite awakening. And it's really important to know that. It's like you can have an awakening experience, and an awakening is not just this black and white, like you either awakened or you're not. It because there is no past and future. So you can think of like awakening is like this scale, and it's just up and down. It doesn't go across a panel like that. It's just constantly like this, because you're not really moving through a passage of time. So this is why you can seem to have an awakening experience, and then all of a sudden you're not having that awakening experience anymore, which is another way of saying that one time your true nature can be more obvious to you, and sometimes it can be less obvious. But it's really just about obviousness. It's always obvious. It's just how obvious is it, right? The guitar in my peripheral vision right now, it's obviously there. But if my attention is on the camera and I'm speaking, it's less obvious than if I speak to the camera. I'm still speaking to the camera and talking, but now my attention is on the guitar. It's more obvious. If the guitar was in my face like this, it would be more obvious again. But then if it's too close, it also becomes unobvious again. Like, think about it. If it's right here, I mean, unless I know prior that it was a guitar, I'm not going to have a concept for what that is. It would just look like blackness. So it's not unobvious. So you can see awakening as this kind of like moving scale. Sometimes it's too obvious. Sometimes it's too unobvious, you see? But it's always obvious. That's the thing. That's the point. It's always obviously there. The truth is obviously obvious all the time. It's just there are different ways of experiencing. There's different points of view, different perspectives, and so there seems to be. There might not be I mean, ultimately, there's not this scale ultimately, but as this experience, individual experience, we have to give credence to that because it is appearing that way. So, and we can live with these appearances. These appearances are not a limitation. Like me having this idea of a scale is not imposing a limitation on consciousness. You can't impose a limitation like that. It just helps the mind ask less questions. And when the mind asks less questions, it becomes more quiet. When you're more quiet, you just experience more obviously the truth. That's just what seems to happen. So I was searching for this teacher, and I wanted someone who could like just say, hey, so this is what I've experienced, this is what I'm experiencing, can you just help me relay this back? And I didn't find anyone. And even on YouTube, I didn't feel like there was anyone who I resonated with enough to just to just feel like they would understand me, from what I'd seen. And so I was looking, and I spent all my inheritance money on this trip. And I ended up in India, and this was just after my trip to Japan, where I hitchhiked to the temple. More about that, I'll probably post a video here somewhere. And I got to India, and the first place I went was Varanasi from Delhi. Just was told it was a holy place, just assumed you could find a guru there, obviously. I was such a textbook seeker. I ended up getting basically just completely manipulated and basically kind of weirdly robbed and took advantage of by fake gurus, and my sister literally told me like, don't do this, like you're just being manipulated. I was like, no, I'm not, this is a real guru, this is no, she was like completely right, but I was just so in denial. And anyway, I then got told to go to Shivananda ashram, and I tried finding this teacher, Swami Yogaswarapananda. He was the next in line. No, he was in line after Shivananda for the president of the ashram. And I would turn up in the morning. I turned up one day. The monks were like, "Oh, he's Swamiji's already gone, so you'll have to come back tomorrow morning." I came back tomorrow morning. Sorry, Swamiji's not here yet. You're gonna have to wait. I waited. Nothing. I said, "Is he here yet?" "No, he's not arrived. No, he's not arrived." And he did arrive, but they just told me that he wasn't. There was this sense of, oh, another Sikha, another Westerner with his little pajamas on, trying to be Indian. And then they were like, "You're going to have to come back tomorrow." So I came back the next day before they opened, sat on the bench alongside this kind of ashram near the river, the Ganga. And they eventually opened the doors. I was there, ready and waiting. "Can I speak to Swamiji now?" And they said, "Yes, you can speak to him later today in the satsang." I said, "The satsang, is there other people in the satsang?" He's like, "Yes, there'll be other people. You can speak to him in the satsang." I was like, "I don't have time for other people. Like, I'm just gonna have to take over the whole set. I have too many questions. This is not satsang material. I need a one-to-one with this guy. I've just come from God knows where. I'm not just speaking to him in the satsang. I want to sit there in front of him on his desk on our own. I want to have a good conversation with this guy, please, for the love of God." He's like, no, you can't. You can't. You have to see him in the satsang." I said, "If I come back tomorrow morning before he goes to the satsang, is there a time available?" And he said, "Yes, if you come back again, you can come and you can see him." So I came back again the next morning before they opened, ready and waiting, and they answered the doors and they said, yes, when he comes, you can go." And I was waiting, and I knew where his office was because they told me, or like somehow I knew, and I was just staring at the office where his thing was, and I just assumed that, I mean, if a guru looking guy walked into that would probably be him. So I was staring, just waiting, and eventually I see this bald man wrapped up in an orange, or no, I think it was white, wrapped up in a gown, walking down the steps, and I just knew it was him. And I looked over the guys and I said, "Hey, can I go and see Swamiji now?" They were like, "No, sorry, he's not here yet." I said, "He's here. I just seen him." And then he said, "How do you know?" And I said, "Because I just seen him." And then he said, "How do you know it's him?" And I was like, "Fuck, how do I know it's him?" Because I didn't met him before. So they were like, "How do you know it's him?" And I was like, "God told me it was him." And then the first guy who's speaking to me is like, "Don't give me that bullshit." And then another monk was like, "God told him it was him. It must have been him." And then the other ones were just like, yeah, you're absolutely right. So then I was like, "Fuck yeah, thank you, man." I'd given this look and like this kind of like, "Thank you." Because he was like, so he was the only one there who would just like, he kind of just like, you know what I mean? Like everybody else was kind of like, "No, we don't." It's like they just didn't want him to see me. And I get it, right? I get it. Like there's just annoying little Westerner there who's just trying to like take the nectar of the guru, whatever it is. But this guy he knew. So he let me go down. I just ran down. And the door was open, and I just knocked, and there was just nothing. Like I knocked, and there was just like no reply. So I just pushed the door open anyway, because I knew he was in there. And I just kind of waved. I didn't even know what to say. I was like, "Hey," because he didn't know why I was there or who I was coming. I was just turned up there, and he just smiled at me and just told me to sit down. There was just no questions. He just smiled, just said, "Come sit down." I came and sat down on his desk. And there was like no, like, "Oh, how are you? Why are you here? Where did you come from?" It was just like, he just kind of started talking to me about, I think first thing he asked me, or the first thing he said to me is, what is yoga? Or something like that. And I said, like, I'm not really sure. I just kind of give like a textbook answer. Is it unity? It means like unity. He's like, "Yes." He said, "What is God?" And I said, I think I said Ram. I don't know why I said that. I just wanted to give like an answer. Like I just wanted to give like an answer I thought he would like. I said, "Ram?" I didn't even know Ram was like an aspect of God. I just knew that Maharaji repeated Ram. And I knew that it ultimately meant God. And he was like, no, that's an aspect of God. But what is God? And I said, God is everything. And he was like, yes. And then he started to give me this teaching about how uh, he said, he's like, how many hairs do you have on your head? And I was like, hundreds of thousands. I don't know. And he's like, yes. How many teeth do you have? And I was like, I think I got like 30 teeth, but I had four removed. And he's like, and he just laughs. He's like, yes. And he said, but how many does it feel like you have? And I said, it doesn't kind of feel like I have teeth. It just feels like I have like one long tooth, you know? He said, yes. And then he said, how many hairs does it feel like you have? And I was like, it only feels like I have one hair, you know? Like you don't feel the hundreds of thousands of hairs. It's just one feeling of hair. Like, you know, it's just a hair experience. It doesn't have thousands of it. It's just hair. I just said it feels like I have one big hair. And he was like, yes. And then he said something like, yoga is when you are one. And I was like, oh. And then it just made it abundantly clear that, like, this is yoga. And then he said, one is God. I was like, whoa. It makes sense. So basically, he gave me this kind of non-dual teaching, and then he said, but when you have a toothache, I'm doing a terrible Indian accent right now, but when you have a toothache, you feel pain, no? I was like, yeah, no, I feel, yeah, that's true. Then it feels like you have teeth. Yes, it does. If you have suffering, then it feels separate. Oh. And I was like, makes so much sense. And then he was explaining this, but I was like, yeah, I love this, but like, I'm kind of here for one thing right now. Where the fudge is my guru? And he gave me this beautiful teaching, which I only now really appreciate, like now that I never don't need the teaching, but these little things, they kind of leave an imprint for sure. And there's one day where it all makes sense on that level, you know. There's one that you just kind of, it's just clear. So he gave me this beautiful teaching, and then he asked me why I was here, and then I said, I want to find a guru, and he said, your guru? Why? And I said, well, because I've been searching all over the world, and I just want the truth, and there's no other option. I want to renounce. I want to become a monk at this ashram, and I want to just surrender. And I don't want a wife, I don't want kids, I don't want anything. And I listed everything I didn't want. I said, I've come to terms with this. I'm ready. I'm ready to finally be a seeking servant of God in an orange robe and to leave the Western world behind. And he just looked at me and was just like, you're already late. Go home. And I was like, how do you know I'm already late, motherfucker? I'm darkness. I need this. I want to be. I'm not light. I want to be. I want to be. I don't know. I don't even know. I'm not. I can't be light. I wouldn't be here right now if I was light. This is the essence of not being light. I want to be light. This is why I'm here. I'm not light. So what I was thinking, I didn't quite say like that to him, but I said to him something like, I don't understand. Like, why would I go home? I can't just go home. I haven't found my teacher. I still not sure of what I'm doing. And then he gives me a story. He says, who would you want to be your guru? And I said, I do feel like a connection to Maharaji, Neem Karoli Baba. He goes, Neem Karoli Baba. And then he said, I know him. He came to my ashram 40 years ago. 40 years ago. He came to my ashram 40 years ago. 40 years ago. And I said, oh, okay. What happened? He said, when I was young, I was a pupil at this ashram. And I wanted to leave to go to a transcendental meditation ashram. And Maharaji came one day and he said to me, without any knowing of what I was doing, don't go. And I said, don't go where? I said, I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want to tell anyone. And he said, don't go. He knew nothing of where I was going or what I wanted, but he just said, don't go. And he said, meditation is wherever you are. Stay here. You will one day be the president of this ashram. And as a young child, I didn't know what to do, so I listened to Maharaji. And now I am here, the president of this ashram today. So now I see that this message wasn't just for me, but it was for you. Go home. Meditation is wherever you are. And just that day, I ended this desire. I realized that I thought I had got rid of all my desires, that I still didn't depend on anything for happiness. I was ready for the truth. But the one thing I wanted was a guru. I thought I transcended desires, I transcended death and blah, 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 but I was still identified with needing something, which was a teacher. And what he did in this moment was took away the one last thing that was holding me back, was this dependency on a teacher, this dependency on needing something in order to be happy. And then I went and I was meditating, and I had this vision of a guy telling me to come to the Shivananda ashram the next day at 11:30 a.m. I went to the ashram at 11:30, forgetting that I had that experience, sat there against the wall, and then all of a sudden an Indian guy my age came up to me and just started speaking to me. And he said, he was just generally really nice and friendly, and we had a conversation, and he's just saying like, what brought you here, and blah, blah, blah. And then eventually he said, you need to check out this guy on YouTube. His name is Rupert Spira. And I thought, Rupert Spira, he doesn't sound like an Indian guy. He doesn't sound Indian. He can't be a guru. He's like, trust me, this guy, like, he knows what he's talking about. I think you'd resonate with him. I was like, so doubtful. Like, no, he doesn't have a Shri next to his name. He's not a Swami. And he's British. This is red flag central for me back then. Anyway, I took it with a pinch of salt. I went back, and she sent me a playlist with all his favorite videos from him. And the first video I clicked on, Rupert said, something like, the boy, he said something like, searching for, he said, I'm going to paraphrase it because I'm just going to say how I understood it at the time. Searching for happiness in the world, or searching for truth in the world, is like a boy in the movie searching the world in order to try and find the screen in which he plays. The boy will never find the world. And I'm going to paraphrase it because this is how I understood it at the time. He said something like, searching for truth in an experience is like a boy in a movie searching the world in order to find the screen in which he plays. The boy will never find the truth as an object or an experience, but as that from which he is searching. And in that moment, it just spun my attention to clearly see exactly what I was doing, why I was doing it, and what I really was. And I already knew what I was, but it just wasn't clear. It was just less obvious. And it just made it painfully obvious. And I never looked back. I never looked for a teacher. I didn't need to. Didn't have none of these. The seeking energy was still there, but it was still lingering. It was still like a lingering sense of lack, lingering sense of boredom, lingering sense of, is this really like the truth, or is this just me making it up, or have I misunderstood something? And then my journey, then the unfoldment was just like back and forth with Rupert every week or so, just realigning, learning the model and the language to kind of articulate my experience better. And then everything that I was going through, then it made sense of other experiences that I'd had. And then my own investigation began. My own investigation started, my own contemplation. It wasn't restricted to just listening to him. And then he gave me this kind of prompt to explore it on my own. And this has then led to me being here today sharing this. I just found it so enjoyable. It was already, I'm sure you can imagine, a very passionate search for me. So the energy just converted into then just exploring my experience directly instead of trying to explore the world to find an experience. The experience was no longer necessary. There was the realization there is no experience of the truth. All experience is the truth. And in order to recognize that, we simply have to just explore it, to see it for what it is without the concepts. Before then, putting the concepts back on, enjoying all the concepts, enjoying all the world and the beauty of it. So if you're searching right now and you need a guide, don't look for a guru, don't look for a teacher. Be open to being guided just to the right place at the right time. You're both guiding yourself, but you're also being guided at the same time. That's the beauty of life. It's both. You're both the guide and the guided. You're both the leader and being led. And appreciate that. Rest in that. Don't try and battle with that. Just appreciate that's just how it is. You're both the guru and the student and the teacher and the pupil all at the same time. So just appreciate that is just the best case scenario, and it just happens to be how it is. So I have a free community. I share meditations and guidance all around these topics every single week. If you'd like to join, the link is in the description. I'd love to see you there. Have a beautiful day, guys. Take care.